Welcome to 5 and 5 for One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key aspects of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today we're looking at Roll for Adventure from Cosmos Games. Roll for Adventure is a cooperative dice rolling and placement game where 1 to 4 players control 2 to 4 characters. The players work to defeat enemies and collect power stones before the Master of Shadows can destroy the world as they know it. But does this family weight game have depth that heavier gamers can appreciate? Let's find out and get to the list. Full disclosure, by the way, this was a review copy sent to us by Thames and Cosmos, so I did not pay for this game. We're going to start out with a con, and that's the limited cooperation and the potential for downtime during the game. Each player's turn consists of rolling several dice and placing them on the board over and over again until they've used them all. In theory, this process should be very quick, but if players place their dice individually and consider their choices after each roll, it can take a little while. And since other players have nothing to do besides suggesting placement options, the game can drag with 3 or 4 players unless your group is really heavily engaged. We'll follow our con with a pro, and that's the variety and modularity in the game. Players have 10 characters to choose from, each with a different ability, and while the game always uses 4 territories for dice placement, you can flip them to their A or B side to change up the way they work entirely. Finally, there are 3 special enemy decks that get shuffled in with the rest of the normal enemies and can change up the challenges your players will face. It's not a huge amount of variety, don't go in expecting Spirit Island, but for a lightweight game like this, it offers a nice amount of replayability as you change up different elements. But going hand in hand with this variety, we get to my number 3, a con, and that's the fact that the game can be swingy and difficulty can be tough to balance. The 3 ways the game gives you to increase difficulty are to add power gems to your goal, to include more special enemies in the deck, or to flip the territories to their more difficult and more complicated backside. But none of these quite works as intended. While adding enemies can certainly increase the challenge, those enemies use a special die that can sometimes do absolutely nothing, which can really throw the balance off. Also, they dilute the deck so the Master of Shadows shows up later, which is the main game ending and main tension building part of the game. The B sides of the board, while theoretically more difficult, also often give you more choices and granular control of your actions, which I enjoy for strategy, but doesn't really make the game necessarily harder. The only element that works purely to increase difficulty is adding power gems, but with the level being 5 to 8, you don't necessarily have as much option there as you might like. But with my number 2, we're back to a pro again, and that's the risk-reward element of dice placement. Placing your dice on a given territory or task locks them up until someone completes that task and returns your dice to you. And many of the tasks, especially on the more complicated B side, reward you if you leave dice and sort of risk them longer instead of finishing off the task. This can make your dice more efficient and earn you bigger gains, but also might leave your dice stuck on the board, giving you only 1 or 2 dice to roll on your turn. Add in the fact that every time you draw an enemy, the more dice you have on the board, the more damage they generally do, and the more dice they move to an unusable spot, and it's a really fun kind of give and take of risk and reward. My final point for Roll for Adventure is also a pro, that's 2 in a row. I really enjoy the basic rolling and placement aspects of the game. You roll all your dice and then place 1 or more of the same value. But your placement options are quite wide. You can attack enemies, you can work to earn back your dice that have been damaged into the middle. And even in the territories themselves, you aren't locked into a certain die placement. You always have these icy caverns you can go to that can earn you extra rewards and also mitigate enemy damage. Now, I don't want you to think it's that brain-burny. Even controlling 3 or 4 characters solo, the options are still pretty straightforward. But the really nice thing is, I never feel too beholden to my dice rolls. With a game that is so random, with everything being based on dice, I feel like I have tons of control and choice with every action in my turn. Overall, Roll for Adventure has some flaws. The difficulty can be hit or miss and a bit hard to control, and downtime can be a problem, especially at higher player counts. But that being said, the game is really affordable for the amount of content you get, and really accessible and easy to teach. And the basic choices on your turn of rolling dice and figuring out where to place them is fun, engaging, and thought-provoking. I will admit that in the few plays with my 6-year-old son, he hasn't been that engaged in it, and the kind of pasted-on theme doesn't do much for him. But I've really enjoyed my solo plays of it, and also enjoyed my plays with hobby gamers. So even though it's a light game, I've actually had the most fun when I've treated it like a more complex experience. I think Roll for Adventure is a great pickup for families, but also one to consider if you're a solo or cooperative gamer who wants a fun filler from time to time. Good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.